The Sengguk reducing patterns of the 6 yin and 6 yang organs. The Sengguk reducing methods are not as commonly used as the Jungguk tonifying methods. Still, there are cases for which they will be called for. We use the Sengguk methods for a short duration and then return to the Jungguk techniques. In the Sengguk reducing technique, we still use 4 needles. However, in this case, we are reducing the sun point of the sun and affected channel and strengthening the grandmother controlling element of the grandmother and affected organ channel. We use this technique when an organ is in excess. As an example, if liver wood is in excess, we reduce the sun element, heart fire, and tonify the element that controls liver, which is metal. In this way, we sedate an organ that is excessive. This is the liver Sengguk. Points number 1 and number 2 are the tonifying points. So in this case, we're tonifying the grandmother point, which is the Jing River point on the yin channels, and that pertains to the lung or metal point. Metal is the grandmother of wood. So in this case, we're tonifying point number 1, which is liver 4. It's the metal point on the liver channel, and we're tonifying lung 8, which is the metal point on the metal channel. And you'll notice that these two were the points of reducing in the Jungguk techniques. So now with the Sengguk, we're going to be tonifying them. So these are the two common points with the Jungguk. Instead of reducing, we are tonifying now. Points number 2 and 4 are the sedating points. In this case, we are sedating sun or the fire. So tonify grandma, sedate sun for the reducing technique. In this case, we are reducing the fire yin spring point, which is on the yin channels, liver 2 and heart 8. These are the yin spring points or the fire points on the liver and the fire channel. And once again, we want to meditate or acupuncture in the directional flow of the channel. The liver Sengguk is one of the two most commonly used Sengguk techniques along with the gallbladder. This technique sedates the liver and is thus used to reduce excessive signs and symptoms of the liver wind. Excessive irritability or hypertension are a couple of examples. Liver yang rising is a common diagnosis in acupuncture medicine where liver wind is too strong. The excessive upward movement of liver qi inhibits the downward movement of qi into the lungs and stomach. The conglomeration of these forces can result in a stuffy sensation in the chest, with difficult breathing or regurgitation of food. Other common signs of ascendant liver yang are red face, irritability, and headaches. This may be accompanied by excess anger and shouting in a loud voice. The liver Sengguk technique can help sedate the rising air movement of liver yang and qi and reduce the above listed symptoms. It is used at the initial presentation, and once the patient is relaxed, we can switch into a Jungguk technique like the liver Jungguk. This is comparable to making a strategic retreat in warfare. We withdraw the troops at one location and then launch a flank attack. In the ebb and flow, pulse and tension of growth, we sometimes push ourselves too hard and reach the limits of our capacity. This is comparable to the inward movement of air in a balloon, which eventually reaches capacity. At such a point, we may get hypertension or headaches. The liver Sengguk gives a brief respite and deflation, a necessary relaxation and rejuvenation of blood and tissue. When the flexibility and pliability of the body and blood vessels are refreshed, we can launch again into new growth and expansion. This is the basis of evolution, applicable to all organs, ever adjusting to their environments. Saam Acupuncture Liver Sengguk Reducing Technique. The lungs are the grandmother of liver. Therefore, the lungs control liver. That is, lung metal is the grandmother of liver wood. So lung metal controls liver wood. So in this case, we tonify grandma to sedate the liver, and then we reduce the sun. So liver wood is the mother of heart fire. Liver wood nourishes heart fire. We tonify the metal point on the lung and liver channel, and sedate the fire point on the heart and liver channel. Hence, we get the tonifying points lung 8, liver 4, and sedating points liver 2 and heart 8. This is the kidney Sengguk, which is never used. Here we are tonifying the grandmother points, the earth point on the kidney channel and the earth point on the spleen channel. Earth is the shoestring point. So kidney 3 we would tonify, and spleen 3 we would tonify. That's tonify grandma, in this case, to reduce. And then the reducing points, we want to reduce the sun, which is the wood. Wood is the son of water, so we reduce sun. Therefore, liver 1 is and kidney 1 are the sedating points. The kidney Sengguk and Saam acupuncture is rarely ever used, but may have clinical applications for people with too strong a sexual desire. This technique, along with the urinary bladder Jungguk, reduces urgency for sexual activity. If it is to be used, it should only be used for a short duration, because the general rule in acupuncture medicine is that the kidneys can never be in excess, but only deficient. They can never be in excess, but are only deficient. Therefore, we never really use the reducing technique. This is the heart Sengguk, the reducing technique for the heart. And in this case, we tonify grandmom, which is the kidney water point on the heart channel and water point on the kidney channel. That brings us to point heart 3 and kidney 10. We are tonifying, we're needling and meditating in the directional flow of the chi. And then we are sedating the sun, which is the earth to fire, and that's the spleen. So we are going to sedate heart point number 3 and spleen point number 3. The heart Sengguk can reduce heat, particularly in the summer, the season when the heart is at its strength. Summer heat in acupuncture is comparable to sunstroke in Western medicine, which can cause mental agitation, restlessness, and loss of consciousness. In this technique, points 1 and 2 are the kidney water tonifying points, which help supplement the heart with coolness and substance of kidney yin. Other signs of heat that the heart Sengguk can reduce are mouth ulcers, red sores, and phlegm heat. The heart Sengguk technique can also be used to calm excessive joy as from a manic episode. If we can temper the extremes of excess of joy, we can also diminish the come down and depression that follows. The heart Sengguk can be used initially and briefly, soon after switching to the kidney Jungguk or urinary bladder Jungguk, which also has a cooling and controlling influence on the heart. The heart Sengguk can also be used for pain in the chest if the heart Jungguk is ineffective. Use the heart Sengguk momentarily and then switch back to the heart Jung. This is the spleen Sengguk reducing technique. The spleen is the element of earth, and the grandmother is the element of wood. So we want to tonify grandma, and in this case, the wood point is point number 1 on the yin spring point. Point number 1 on both the spleen and liver channel, which are the wood points on the spleen and liver channel. We want to tonify points 1 and 2. And then we are going to sedate the sun. Metal is the sun element to the earth. So we sedate the metal element at the Jing river point on the spleen and lung channel, which is spleen 5 and lung 8. In Saam, the spleen Jungguk energy is warming and moisturizing. It is associated with the first level of human needs, satisfaction derived from the accumulation of food and nutrition. When this satisfaction becomes excessive, it can develop into signs of dampness, lethargy, dullness, and lack of motivation. The spleen Sengguk, like the large intestine Jungguk, is a cool and drying technique, opposite that of the spleen Jungguk, which can be used to counter the oversatisfaction of accumulated food and nutritional substances, which contributes to obesity and overweight. The spleen Sengguk can be used to reduce cases of damp heat, where there is a bright yellow color in the skin, sweat, or urine. In each case, use the large intestine first and then add the spleen Sengguk if there is no effect. This is the lung Sengguk, the reducing technique. We want to tonify grandma. In this case, it's the fire channel. Heart fire is the grandmother of lung metal. Heart fire controls lung metal. So we want to tonify the fire point on both the lung and heart channel, which is the yin spring point. So we get lung 10 and heart 8, the two tonifying points. And then we want to sedate the sun, and um, lung kidney is the son of lung. So kidney water is the son of lung metal, and we want to sedate the sun points. So hence we get lung 5 and kidney 10. In Saam, the lung Jungguk is cool and moisturizing and associated with the first level of human needs, satisfaction in the accumulation of material goods and money. In excess, this can lead to greediness and cluttering or hoarding of belongings. The lung Sengguk adds dryness and warmth opposite the lung Jungguk and is similar to the stomach Jungguk, also a dry and warming technique. The warming, dry energy can help let go of excessive attachment and security invested in the possession of material possessions and money. This is the Pericardium Jungguk, the reducing technique of the pericardium. The pericardium shares the same characteristics as heart fire. So there's going to be 2 points on this graph. It's point 2 and point 3 that are similar to the heart Jungguk technique. So pericardium is associated with the element of fire. And so we want to tonify grandmother point on the pericardium channel. And so we tonify the kidney water point on the pericardium channel and the kidney channel. We get point 1, which is pericardium 3 and kidney 10. These are the two tonifying points, and we would needle and meditate in the directional flow of the chi. In this case, spleen is considered the son of pericardium element fire. So we reduce the spleen point, the shoestring point on the pericardium and spleen channel, and hence we get pericardium 7, which is point number 4 in the graph, and spleen 3, which we sedate these 2 points, which the arrow signifies by going against the directional flow of chi. The pericardium Jungguk is similar to the Sanjiao and gallbladder Jungguks. It can oppose the excessive accumulation of knowledge of the pericardium Jungguk. In this case, the person becomes arrogant and superior due to their accumulation of knowledge and education. The pericardium Jungguk, gallbladder Jungguk, and Sanjiao Jungguk can help reduce these symptoms. This is the gallbladder Jungguk reducing technique. In this case, we want to tonify grandmother, which is metal. Metal is the grandmother of wood. Metal controls wood, and we want to tonify grandmother point. On the yang channels, the metal point is the first point on the channel, the Jing well points. So in this case, we're tonifying gallbladder 44 and large intestine point 1. These are the metal points on the yin spring points, which are at the fingertip and toe tip. And once again, you want to tonify, you meditate in the directional flow of the chi indicated by the arrow. Fire is the sun associated with wood, and we want to sedate the fire point. In this case, small intestine is the son of gallbladder, and these are points on the Jing River point. The fire points are the Jing River points on the yang channels. So point 3 is gallbladder 38, and point 4 is small intestine 5, which are the reducing points. The gallbladder Sengguk and the liver Sengguk are the most commonly used Sengguk techniques in Saam Acupuncture. The gallbladder is associated with the third level of human needs. Being yang, it is the dissatisfaction of one's accumulation of power and strength. Revolutionary rage, heat, and fire generated in the gallbladder Jungguk can be diminished by the gallbladder Sengguk. This is similar to the psychological process of tension myositis syndrome made famous or created by Dr. John Sarno. Dr. Sarno explains that certain types of pain are derived from an emotional or psychological root cause. It is an unconscious process, a conflict between the id and the ego. The id in this case represents the primitive brain that wants instant gratification and hates responsibilities. The unconscious desires of the id are suppressed by the ego, which operates in the consciousness and governs the aspirations, goals, and responsibilities necessary to our successful and morally correct lives. High achieving, successful people with perfectionist tendencies and do goodism attitudes are the characteristic types of people likely to get tension myositis syndrome. The drive to achieve, be perfect, and do good directly aggravates the id, which wants freedom and none of the responsibilities. Seen in family relationship, commitments, and responsibilities, this syndrome can manifest in a newlywed who has difficulty adjusting to a monogamous life, or a new mother who has all the responsibilities for the life of her child and yet unconsciously hates this new commitment. The undercurrents of action wanted to be taken by the unconscious id, such as cheating on the spouse or abandoning the child, are condemned as socially unacceptable. The conscious ego, in recognizing the freedom loving desires of the id, sees these potential behaviors as damaging and harmful to the successful, socially acceptable life the ego has built. As a form of repression to keep from acting on these harmful impulses, and by an ingenious process, the ego gives us pain by causing a slight deprivation of oxygen to the muscle or nerve tissue. Dr. Sarno, in his book Healing Back Pain, first described this syndrome to back pain patients suffering from spinal disorders like herniated disc, stenosis, sprains, and strains. Later in subsequent books, he expanded the coverage to many other symptoms. Dr. Sarno termed the emotion underlying this syndrome as unconscious rage. In Saam, the gallbladder Sengguk clears heat generated from anger, stress, and frustration of dissatisfaction pertaining to the third levels of human needs, which is power and strength. This is the equivalent to Dr. John Sarno's unconscious rage. The gallbladder Sengguk is applicable for pain that runs along the course of the gallbladder channel, such as sciatic pain symptoms. Other disorders may be stress, anger, or frustration due to a lack of acknowledgement or achievement for one's skills and abilities. Spinal related disorders, temporal headaches, and pain along the hypochondria are other indications for the gallbladder Sengguk. Used with the kidney Jungguk to target fear. This is a combination of Dr. John Sarno's association of fear as a factor in traditional high tension myositis syndrome and acupuncture medicine classification of fear with the kidneys. Used for difficult to treat chronic low back pain. Using the gallbladder Sengguk and kidney Jungguk is also an example of mutually promoting channels of the advanced technique of Chapter 9. The gallbladder and heart Jungguks are mutually promoting yin and yang techniques. Since we are using the gallbladder Sengguk, we choose the kidney Jungguk, which is the controlling element of the heart. Now, I don't use the gallbladder Sengguk anymore. All this chapter can be placed in the gallbladder Jungguk technique, which is where we do this technique a lot in the clinic. And it is, you'll see, we're going to talk about this later in the harmonized combination with the heart and gallbladder Jungguks. So we are going to talk more about this in the harmonized combination. But again, I don't use the gallbladder Sengguk. This chapter can be placed in the gallbladder Jungguk. This is the urinary bladder Sengguk reducing technique. The urinary bladder is the grandson of stomach earth, so we want to tonify grandmother earth. In this case, we are tonifying the earth points on the urinary bladder and stomach channel. These are the Heisi points located generally at the knee or the elbows. So in this case, urinary bladder is point number 1 and stomach 36 are point number 2. These are the tonifying points. And then wood is the son of water, which urinary bladder is associated with the element of water. And so we sedate the wood point, which is the shoestring point on the yang channels. So gallbladder 41 and urinary bladder 65, we sedate these points. The urinary bladder is rarely, if ever, used. However, it may be clinically effective for use with kidney yang deficiency, where there is a deep cold in the feet and lower extremities and sore back pain. In this case, the cold is so extreme it can't be warmed with blankets or covering. The cold may be accompanied by retention of dampness in the lower torso. The tonifying points 1 and 2 are stomach earth points, which are warm channel points and can generate warmth to counter the effects of cold from yang deficiency. We'll talk about cold in another channel. Yes, but severe cold is yang deficiency, and we do moxibustion to rescue our patients from such severe cold. Cold so bad that even if you cover yourself up with a warm blanket or sit by a fire, you're still unable to warm yourself. So moxibustion is a therapy that we do. This is the small intestine Sengguk, the reducing technique. Small intestine is associated with the element of fire paired with the heart. Urinary bladder is the element of water paired with the kidney. So water is the grandmother of fire. So we tonify the grandmother point of the small intestine, or the water point to the small intestine fire. These are the yin spring points on the yang channels. So that leads us to small intestine number 2, the second point on the channel, and urinary bladder, the second to last point on the urinary bladder channels, which we tonify meditating or needling in the direction of the flow of qi in the channel. The sun points to fire. Earth is the son of fire. And so we will sedate the stomach earth point on the small intestine and earth channel. These are the hissy points located at the knee and elbow. So that leads us to sedating small intestine 8 and stomach 36. The small intestine Sengguk is rarely used in Saam Acupuncture. This is the stomach Sengguk, the reducing technique. Stomach is of the element of earth, and gallbladder is the element of wood. Gallbladder wood is the grandmother of stomach earth, so we want to tonify grandmother. And these are the shoestring points on the yang channel. So stomach 43, we tonify, and gallbladder 41, we tonify. And then metal is the son of earth, and so we want to sedate the sun points. And in this case, metal is the hesi point on yang channels. So we are going to sedate the last point on the stomach channel, stomach 44, and the first point on large intestine, which is large intestine 1, on the large intestine channel. The stomach Jungguk is rarely used in Saam acupuncture. This is the large intestine Sengguk, the reducing technique. The large intestine is associated with the element of metal paired with its yin counterpart lung. The small intestine is the element of fire paired with the heart. And in this case, we want to tonify grandmother. So heart is the grandmother of metal. And in this case, the fire is the Jing River point on the yang channels. So in this case, we are tonifying large intestine 5 and small intestine 5, the grandmother points of the metal channel on the yang channel. And then we're going to reduce the sun. The urinary bladder, being water, is the son of large intestine metal. And these are the yin spring points on the urinary bladder and large intestine channel. The second point to the end on the urinary bladder and second point on the large intestine. Urinary bladder 66 and large intestine 2 are the sedating points. The large intestine Sengguk can help generate warmth and moisture, the opposite properties of the large intestine Jungguk. This technique can bring warmth to the kidney yang deficient condition. It can be used for lower back pain such as herniated lumbar disc, where there is a deep cold in the hands and feet that doesn't warm even when covered with blankets. Alternate this technique with the gallbladder Jungguk. This is the Sanjiao Sengguk reducing technique. Sanjiao shares the element of fire with the small intestine, so it's paired with the small intestine as like the pericardium is associated with the heart. So in this case, Sanjiao has an element of fire. So in this case, we tonify the grandmother point, the water point to fire, that being the urinary bladder. These are the yin spring points on the Sanjiao and urinary bladder, Sanjiao 2 and urinary bladder 66. And then we will sedate the sun points, which are the Hesi points. Earth being the sun of fire, we sedate Sanjiao 10 and stomach 36. The Sengguk technique is rarely used in Saam acupuncture. This ends the chapter on the Jungguk and Sengguk tonifying and reducing point prescription patterns. A brief discussion of cold. This is the cover of a magazine I self-published in November 2017, titled Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine's Guide to Cold-Induced Diseases. What Western medicine should know but doesn't. What Western medicine should know but doesn't. Forward. It is surprising to me, really surprising, how little Western medicine has studied or understood the effects of cold on the body. In fairness, Western medicine doesn't have the structures in place or the ability to identify and diagnose the effects of cold on the body. There is no unifying theory on cold other than maybe a diagnosis of hypothyroid. Acupuncture medicine, on the other hand, has a unified theory and understanding when it comes to diseases and effects due to cold. The major treatise on cold in acupuncture medicine goes back 1,000+ years to the book Shen Han Lun, Treatise on Cold-Induced Diseases. It is a brilliant study on cold. It traces the effects of cold as it passes through the most superficial layers, the skin and lungs, inward to the stomach, and then its ultimate deepest layers of the kidneys. A cold so deep and penetrating that not even sitting by a fire or covering oneself up with blankets is capable of providing warmth. At each of these movements of cold symptoms manifest and are able to be identified through the pulse and tongue analysis, as well as observation, palpitation, and questioning of the patient. Cold is something I see in my patients every day, not only in geriatric patients, but children and young adults as well. I see many people unwittingly self-expose themselves to cold and suffer from the effects which are completely mysterious to them. It is from this experience that I draw this little treatise on cold. It is my hope that people may be made more aware and guarded against the effects of cold. In the clinic, I ask all the time, one of the first questions I ask during the examination: do you easily get cold hands and feet when the weather turns cold? This is the first question I ask when I suspect cold is a factor in my patient's condition. This question serves as both a diagnostic marker and point of explanation when trying to piece together my patient's symptoms and complaints. And yes, as a footnote, this would make an interesting questionnaire case study. What percentage of the population would answer yes to that question? If one has to think about their answer, they probably are not affected by cold. Double check the feet and the back of the ankles. Many people are not aware, but they have cold feet, but quick palpation will clearly determine so. And I check the back of the ankles. Yes, And if you ask this question and they take some time to think about it, no, they probably don't have cold hands and feet, because people with cold hands and feet know they have cold hands and feet. If they've ever shaken somebody's hands, their hands may be colder than the others. And I myself answer yes to that question. We're very aware that we have cold hands and feet, so we generally will answer quickly to that question. And so if the answer is yes, I do get cold hands and feet when the weather turns cold, then follow along and pay close attention. If the answer is no, then just be aware and guarded to the possibilities of cold exposure and harm. Yes, I get cold hands and feet when the weather turns cold. When I shake hands with someone, I notice my hands are always colder. If I touch my feet against my spouse in the bed, they feel as cold as ice to them. These are examples of cold harboring in one's body. These are the people who most especially must be guarded and protective from the effects of cold. When I say that cold harbors in the body, it is usually from long-term exposure to cold, beginning from childhood. A child who gets sore, painful feet when being out in the snow may be one to eventually harbor cold in the body. This would be cold in the kidney level, which is deep in the body. Cold settles to the lower parts of the body, which is why the feet may be more prone to cold than the hands. Displaced southerners who move to colder climates may also become affected by cold harboring in the body. Cold is an evil pathogen affecting the kidneys. In acupuncture medicine, the kidneys are the source of the body's warmth and fire. All the warming effects of the body's metabolism are rooted in the kidneys. Cold is the pathogen that specifically affects the kidneys. Cold acts like a blanket and submerges the kidney warming function. This is like an artificial blanket of cold that submerges the kidney function, and a lot of times it's self-inflicted blanket of cold. Hence, when the weather turns cold, the kidney's warmth is not able to rise to the extremities. Most of the time, the kidneys are fine. There is no deficiency of function in the kidney. It is just somebody has self-exposed themselves to too much cold and thus has extraneously submerged the kidney warming function. Upon removal of the cold exposure, the patient and their kidneys quickly respond and the body becomes warmer again. Other times, the kidneys are deficient, which will make the patient more vulnerable to the effects of cold. Kidney deficiency occurs with aging, where kidney warming function begins to lose its power. The older one gets, the more they may become affected by cold. This is why the elderly have a much more difficult time living in cold northern environments than the young, who have strong kidney essence and yang and can more easily withstand the effects of cold. Since kidneys dominate urination, cold affecting the kidneys may result in urinary incontinence, enuresis, bedwetting, or peeing in the pants. Other kidney yang deficiency complaints due to cold may be diminished sexual function and desire. Since the kidneys dominate brain and mental function, cold may cause mental lethargy or loss of consciousness. Cold phlegm contributes to epilepsy and convulsions with frothing of white phlegm at the mouth. These are symptoms of cold and wind. Wind is another pathogen in acupuncture medicine, and it can be cold or hot. Common exposure points to cold. Food and drink. Number one, food and drink. Cold can penetrate from drinking ice cold drinks, eating raw foods, fruits, and vegetables, which are energetically cold. Cook your foods and add warm herbs and spices like ginger or turmeric. Drinking ice cold drinks may be the most common self exposure of cold that people do to themselves. If you easily get cold hands and feet, then you must begin drinking warmer temperature fluids. Eat warm soups and cooked foods. And I would say add warm ginger tea and use a heating pad on your stomach as well after eating. Swimming. Swimming exposes one to cold as water temperature is usually a multitude of degrees below body temperature. This includes walking or wading in cold water and not necessarily swimming. Being mindful of swimming in cold water for prolonged periods of time. Take a long warm bath or shower afterwards. Air conditioning and cold weather. Cold, windy drafts on the back of the neck, sleeping under an open window, workplace environment, restaurants, supermarkets, and doctors' offices frequently are cold and cause exposure to cold. Wear a scarf to protect yourself from exposure to these cold drafts. Air conditioning draft is the second most common self-exposure to cold that I see in the clinic. Cold drafts on the body at night from the air conditioner or fan can cause facial paralysis of Bell's palsy or contribute to one's neck and shoulder pain. Cold air in the car may affect one's wrist and hands. Going barefoot. Walking barefoot on cold floors and ground can easily transmit cold through the feet and legs, or going in sandals in cold weather. This may exacerbate foot pain problems like plantar fasciitis or muscle cramping of the calves and hamstring, or contribute to lower back pain problems. And going barefoot on a cold floor, well, the kidney channel begins at the bottom of the foot, so you're exposing the kidney channel treatment directly to cold. Exposure from growing up in a cold northern environment. Dress warmly. Wear socks, gloves, hat, and scarf. Being underdressed is commonly the cause of self-exposure to cold weather. Wear warm socks and shoes or boots, as the lower areas of the body may be the first to be affected by the cold. Having prolonged exposure, cold exposure in the feet in childhood may result in the harboring of cold in the body in later in life, even warm temperatures and climates. Traumatic episodes. Traumatic episodes, fear, shock, all register within the kidneys, which can then make one vulnerable to attacks of cold. How does cold affect the body? In my clinic, the two most common symptoms due to cold exposure are pain of muscles and tendons and digestive complaints. Pain due to musculoskeletal issues affects the joints, extremity, and every part of the body. For digestive complaints, we say that the stomach likes warm food and drink and dislikes cold. A byproduct of inhibited digestion due to cold is the accumulation of phlegm or mucus, which frequently resides in the sinus areas, causing a complaint of sinus pain or headache. Inhibited digestive function also leads to rebellious stomach chi, which is the upwards movement of stomach contents in the form of belching, vomiting, or nausea. Good stomach function forces food downwards. Cold as a cause of pain. Well, in order for us to understand cold as a cause or triggering event of pain, we must understand the pathology behind trigger points and shortening. When the muscle is short due to trigger points, exposure to cold or ice will constrict the muscle even further, thereby triggering pain or keeping one in pain for a longer period of time. And this is going to be a continuation in another video series when we talk about kinetic acupuncture and pain and cold affecting pain on the muscles. So just people that are easily get cold hands and feet. We want them to dress warm, avoid cold, be very guarded and protective about cold, and then be guarded at night when they're sleeping. The body temperature lowers at night a little bit, and if you got cold air blowing, that may make you vulnerable to cold at the night, which you may wake up with phlegm or Bell's palsy, for instance, or the problem may be just worse when you wake up in the night. And one suggestion I always make is wear your snow hat at night when you go to bed. Good idea. Just dress warm and protect yourself from cold. Introduction to Sasang, Korean Constitutional Medicine. Sasang Constitutional Medicine is a good practice and example of organ-centered consciousness. Sasang Constitutional Medicine was founded by Dr. Lee Jama around 1892 in Korea. The precept of Sasang is that people can be classified according to 4 body and personality types. Of these 4 body types, 2 are yin and 2 are yang. There are 4 organs identified in pairs with Sasang Constitutional Medicine. The pairs have 1 organ in strength and 1 organ in weakness. The first of the body types, well, the body types are either yin or yang, and yin body type number 1 is called Xiao Yin body constitution. This has strong kidneys and weak spleen. Yin body type number 2 is called Tai Yin body constitution and has a strong liver and weak lung. The Yang type number 1 is called Xiao Yang body type body constitution and has strong spleen and weak kidney. Yang type number 2 Tai Yang body constitution has a strong lung and weak liver. So you'll notice the 4 organs involved are kidney, spleen, liver, and lung, and their roles are reversed. The yin body type, it's the strong kidney in body type number 1 and weak spleen, but in yang type number 1, the person has a strong spleen and weak kidney. And likewise with yin type body 2, there's a strong liver and weak lung, while Tai Yang body constitution has strong lung and weak liver. Yin body types will have stronger, better developed lower body and lesser developed upper body. The yin body type will have narrower shoulders than hips. The yang body types will have stronger, better developed upper body and lesser developed lower body. The shoulders and chest will be broad and the hips and buttocks will be narrow. Different foods and different herbs for different body types. Yang body types will have a tendency towards feeling warmth and heat. Foods good for the yang body type will be cooler in nature. Yin body types will have a tendency towards feeling cold and cold. Foods good for the yin body type will be warmer in nature. People may intuitively eat or know which foods are good and not good for them, which will provide clues as to what constitutional body type they are. It is not easy to properly categorize one's constitutional type, as there are crossovers occur where one may have a yang body type but actually exhibits yin personality characteristics. Classification according to body types as well as responses to questionnaires can help better one understand one's constitutional body type. According to Gary Wagman, 70% of the total human population are of a Tai Yin body type with strong liver. 11% are Xiao Yin, strong kidney. 17% are Xiao Yang, and 2% are Tai Yang. Your Yin Yang body type, page 26. For the reader further interested in learning about Sasang constitutional medicine, I refer to the books Your Yin Yang Body Type by Gary Wagman and Compass of Health by Joseph Kim. Meditate upon your Sasang constitutional body type. A major principle of acupuncture and Oriental medicine is to tonify which is deficient. Xiao Yin body types should meditate using the Spleen Jungguk, which is their weak organ. Tai Yin body types should meditate using the Lung Jungguk, which is their weak organ. Xiao Yang body types should meditate using the Kidney Jungguk, which is their weak organ. Tai Yang body types should meditate using the Liver Jungguk, which is their weak organ. The Luo connecting points in preparation for the harmonized combinations. The Luo connecting points, like all the points on the Saam Acupuncture point prescription, are important points that are located on the arms and legs, on the lower arms and lower legs, between the fingertips and elbows and the toe tips and knees. The Luo connecting points are also found on the Du meridian, Ren meridian, and spleen collateral meridian, but they are found on each of these 12 organs and channels. The Luo connecting points treat disorders involving the exterior-interior related meridians and those in the area supplied by the 2 meridians. So the interior-exterior related meridians are on the arm, the lung. Luo connecting point connects to the large intestine channel, and the large intestine Luo connecting point connects to the lung. So these are branching meridians connecting between the 2 interior exterior yin yang related meridians. The heart connects to the small intestine, and the pericardium connects to the Sanjiao, the luo connecting points. On the feet, the liver luo connecting point connects to the gallbladder, and the spleen connects to the stomach as the kidney connects to the urinary bladder. In regards to the harmonized combinations, I incorporate the luo connecting points, and I use it in the same way that Dr. Richard Tan uses his balance method number 5. So I connect them by looking at the primary chief organ that we are treating, but then we make a connection from the opposite position on the circadian clock, the opposite position of the chief organ, and whatever is 12 hours opposite, I use the luo connecting point of that organ. Not just the luo connecting point, I also incorporate the front mu point of that channel that is 12 hours opposite the chief point on the circadian clock. I will be talking about the front mus in just the next chapter here. I like incorporating the luo connecting point because it will, in most cases, or in about 8 times, it'll give us a third option, a third channel in which we can make a connection using the harmonized combinations. Now, on certain channels, the heart, gallbladder, the pericardium and stomach, and the lung and urinary bladder, the luo connecting point is also those two same channels. So in those cases, we only have the 2 channels that we are kind of making connections to, which you'll see later in the headache section and Dr. Richard Tan's balancing method. But I just like it. It provides a triangulation. I like the incorporation of 3 organs in balancing things and harmonizing things. So you'll get a better understanding here when we go into the harmonized combinations. But I do want to just review the luo connecting points and how we are going to incorporate them with the harmonized combinations. The luo connecting pairings to the Jungguk techniques. We use the opposite side of the circadian clock channel, 12 hours opposite side the chief channel. We will incorporate that luo connecting point as well as the front mu point. So for instance, if we are using the kidney Jungguk and we determine that to be the chief treatment of the technique, then it pairs to the large intestine, which is large intestine number 6 is the luo connecting point. To the kidney channel, it's 12 hours opposite. The large intestine is 12 hours opposite the circadian clock. So we use the luo connecting point of that. So that will be, we will use large intestine 6. Now, large intestine is a yang organ, and these are all going to be 12 hours opposite. They're all going to be the opposite of the yin to the yang. So if the chief is a yin, the 12 hours opposite will be a yang channel and vice versa. And this is neat because as the chief will be one yin, we'll use one chief technique. The harmonized combination to that will be yang, and then this luo connecting point will also be a yang channel. So when we do this, if the kidney Jungguk is the chief, we will incorporate large intestine point number 6, but we do it on the opposite side of whatever side we're doing the kidney Jungguk technique. So the large intestine 6 will be placed on the opposite side. And when we do kidney, we harmonize it with the Sanjiao. So it's going to be kidney Jungguk, the points placed on the left, with the Sanjiao harmonized combination on the right. And then we add this large intestine 6 also on the right side. If we're using the liver Jungguk and we determine the liver Jungguk to be the chief, then 12 hours opposite the liver on the circadian clock is the small intestine channel. We choose that luo connecting point. So with the harmonized combination, it's liver, large intestine. We do the liver points on the left side, the large intestine Jungguk points on the right, and then we also incorporate the luo connecting point, small intestine 7, on the right side as well. The heart Jungguk is paired to the luo connecting point gallbladder. 12 hours opposite the heart channel is the gallbladder. And so this is the heart and the gallbladder are already the harmonized combination. So there's no additional channel luo connecting. We're just using the heart and gallbladder. We can use gallbladder point 37 on the same side as the gallbladder Jungguk, which will be on the right side, heart will be on the left. The spleen Jungguk is paired to the Sanjiao. 12 hours opposite the spleen on the circadian clock is the Sanjiao channel. So we choose that luo connecting point, Sanjiao 0.5. So with the harmonized combination, spleen, small intestine, the spleen Jungguk prescriptions are on the left, small intestines on the right. And then we also add Sanjiao point number 5 on the right side. That's spleen Sanjiao 5. The lung Jungguk and the urinary bladder, again, this is a self-same channel. The luo connecting point, or 12 hours opposite the lung channel, is the urinary bladder on the circadian clock, and the lung Jungguk is already the harmonized combination to the urinary bladder. So the left side would just be lung Jungguk, right side urinary bladder. You could use the urinary bladder 0.58 on the right side as well. The pericardium and stomach are also self-same. The pericardium is the harmonized combination to the stomach. So the 12 hours opposite the pericardium is the stomach channel on the circadian clock. So again, it's just these two channels, but we could do the pericardium on the left, stomach on the right, and stomach 40 is placed on the same side as the stomach Jungguk points. And then we go into the yang channels. If we are using the yang channel as the chief, well, say urinary bladder, again, it's 12 hours opposite the lung on the circadian clock, and it's also the self-same harmonized channel combination. So if urinary bladder is the chief, we would use that on the right, and then we use the lung Jungguk on the left, but we add lung 7, the luo connecting point, on the left side as well. And then large intestine, if that is chosen as the chief channel technique, the opposite 12 hours opposite that is the kidney channel on the circadian clock. So we can do the large intestine Jungguk 4-point prescription on the right side, and then the large intestine is paired harmonized with the liver. So liver Jungguk on the left, and then on the left side we also add kidney for the luo connecting point on the left side. Gallbladder and heart are self-same channels. They are already the harmonized combination to one another, and they are also the opposite on the 24-hour circadian clock. So if the gallbladder is chosen as the chief technique on the right side, then we add the heart Jungguk on the left, and we add the luo connecting point heart 7 also on the left side. Small intestine is opposite to the liver channel on the circadian clock. So if small intestine Jungguk is chosen as the chief, we can add the liver 5, luo connecting point 5, and that will be also on the opposite side. So small intestine Jungguk pairs with the spleen. We can do small intestine on the right, the 4 points, and then we add the spleen on the left, the spleen Jungguk, and we include liver 5 as with that left side point prescription. Stomach and pericardium, once again, are self-same channels opposite one another on the circadian clock, and they're also the harmonized combinations. So if you choose stomach Jungguk as the chief on the right, you can use the pericardium Jungguk on the left and incorporate the luo connecting point pericardium 6 on the left side. Finally, Sanjiao is opposite the spleen on the circadian clock. If you choose Sanjiao as the chief, that's paired with the kidney. So you can do the Sanjiao 4-point prescription on the right side with the kidney Jungguk on the left. And then you can incorporate spleen 4, which is the luo connecting point, to the left side also of the point prescription. You're going to see this in the harmonized combination chart. And then we also incorporate the front mu points of these opposite circadian clocks, which we're going to discuss now. The front mu points used as part of harmonized combinations. The front mu points are specific points located on the chest and abdomen on the front side, where the chi of each of the organs is infused. They treat disorders of the internal organs. So for each of the 12 organs and channels, we incorporate their front mu point on the abdomen or chest. Now, complementary to this is the back shu points, which are located on the back, along the spine, particularly on the urinary bladder. Each organ has its respective back shu point, which also strongly treats that channel. With meditation, you can incorporate the back shu points. However, with acupuncture, it's performed when one is lying supine on their back. And so we cannot do the acupuncture, the back shoe points on the back. So we incorporate the front mu points as part of the harmonized combinations channel. So we will do the front mu points of all the involved channels. So that would be the harmonized combination channels, plus the luo connecting, or the opposite channel on the opposite 12 hours opposite the circadian clock. So sometimes we'll do 3 front mu points, or other times it'll only be 2, because the same channels are also this 12 hours opposite one another on the circadian clock. So I'm just going to go over the location of the front mu points and to give you a better idea. These are the locations of the front mu points, and we're going to just work our way from the top to the bottom. So starting at the top, located close to the shoulders, is the front mu point of the lung. It's also located at lung number 1, first point on the lung channel. The lung you'd have to run your finger under the clavicle until it stops with the charasoid process. And this is 6 chun, 6 inches from the midline of the body. It's the lateralmost part of the mu points located in the upper shoulder. Going down on the ren, which is the midline down the very center of the body, running vertically, is pericardium, the front point of the pericardium, located at ren acupuncture point number 17. This is located in the 4th intercostal space of the ribs, right on the sternum, and it's right between the nipples on the sternum. There's usually a little indentation that you can find that point. Running down is heart 14. This is located 6 chun, 6 inches above the umbilicus, the belly button, and this is located just in the depression as the sternum part of the front bone ends. It's right in the depression under the sternum. Running lateral to that is the front mu of the liver point, which is liver 14 on the liver channel. This point is located directly below the nipple in the 6th intercostal space, and it's 4 inches from the midline. Just below that, in the next intercostal space, is the front mu point of the gallbladder, gallbladder 24 on the gallbladder point 24, directly below the nipple in the 7th intercostal space, 4 chun lateral to the midline. Going back onto the ren channel in the center line of the body is the front mu point of the stomach. It's ren acupuncture point number 12, and this is located 4 inches, 4 chun above the umbilicus. Running lateral again is the front mu point of the spleen. It's located on the acupuncture point liver number 13. This is the lateral side of the abdomen. This is just below the free end of the 11th rib, which you have to palpate for when you insert the needle. And just a little bit below and lateral to that is the front mu point of the kidney, which is located on gallbladder acupuncture point number 25, lateral side of the abdomen, on the lower border of the free end of the 12th rib. Now going to this umbilicus, the belly button, is the front mu point of the large intestine, or it's also on stomach acupuncture point 25. This is lateral to the umbilicus, 2 chun from the midline. And then below that, we go back to the ren channel on the center line of the body, and the front mu point of the Sanjiao channel is located at ren acupuncture point number 6. This is 2 chun under the umbilicus. And then 1 inch below that on this midline is the front mu point of the small intestine, acupuncture point ren number 4. This is 3 chun below the umbilicus. And then below that is the front mu point of the urinary bladder channel, and its acupuncture point ren number 3. This is located 4 chun below the umbilicus. These are the front mu points, which you will see also incorporated into the harmonized combinations. So with these points, the front mu points, the luo connecting points, and the harmonized combination, that's going to make up the core of the harmonized technique point prescription point applications. And now we will begin talking about the harmonized combinations. Part 3. Harmonized Combinations. Flexibility regarding Saam Acupuncture. There is no hard or fixed rule regarding Saam Acupuncture. The harmonized combinations is a system that I meditate on and consistently use in the clinic. I consistently keep the same left, right-sided point prescriptions for male and female, but may switch and accentuate the chief channel on the other side per the situation without changing the point prescriptions. Example, for a male patient with kidney Sanjiao treatment, where normally the kidney is chief on the left for male, I will keep the same point prescription, but simply accentuate the Sanjiao points on the right as the chief for their meditational focus, using the 3 or 6 breath technique. This is done in the example of PTSD, where the Sanjiao points are accentuated in meditation to facilitate a simply forgetting of the PTSD traumatic incident. The same is done for the heart gallbladder unconscious rage, where the B+ points are used. There are many other ways to apply Saam acupuncture, such as Master Byung-Sung Kim's techniques in his book, The Silver Bullet. When I learned in the clinic under Dr. Chu, he used the Korean 4-needle technique only on one side of the body without regard to yin or yang, with traditional acupuncture points on the other side of the body. The one-sided application of Saam without regard to yin or yang is probably the most commonly used acupuncture applications of the technique. The derivation of the harmonized combination theory can be found in Master Tung with origination from the I Ching. When using harmonized combination, you can designate as chief, assistant, and deputy acupuncture channels and points. This is the same model used in constructing herbal formulas. Use the primary chief Jungguk channel technique on the left side for male, right side for female, and use its harmonized Jungguk channel or the 2 tonification points of the harmonized channel, a 6-needle technique, on the opposite side as assistant. You can add other acupuncture points to serve as deputy. The harmonized combinations are the kidney and Sanjiao Jungguk, based on the Shao channel relationship, kidney Shao Yin, Sanjiao Shao Yang. The liver and large intestine Jungguk, based on the channel relationship of Joy Yin being liver and Yang Min being stomach or large intestine. Heart and gallbladder Jungguk, based on the Shao channel relationship. Heart is Shao Yin, gallbladder is Shao Yang. The spleen and small intestine Jungguk, based on the Tai channel relationship, which spleen is Tai Yin and small intestine is Tai Yang. And then lung and urinary bladder Jungguk, based on the Tai channel relationship, lung being Tai Yin, urinary bladder being Tai Yang. Pericardium and stomach Jungguk, based on the channel relationship, Joy Yin, Yang Ming, pericardium being Joy Yin, and Yang Ming being the stomach. We will be talking about the Bagua I Ching development of this technique now. The construction of the harmonized combinations is derived from the open, close, and pivot channels discussed in the Neijing Yellow Emperor's Inner Classic, which originates from the I Ching. From the Tai Chi symbol is derived the original 2 forms of yin and yang. Yin is denoted by a broken line, and yang is denoted by a solid line. From these 2 are derived the 4 yin and yang forms. The 2 yang forms are the solid lines and the broken line above the solid line. The 2 yin forms are the solid line above the broken line and the 2 broken lines. This leads to the 8 patterns of the Bagua. And by the way, the 2 yang forms, the 2 solid lines are called greater yin. The broken line above the solid line is lesser yin. And the lesser yang and greater yin lines. You'll notice below that there's now the trigrams, which are the Chen, Dui, Li, Shen, Shun, Kan, Gen, and Kun. These are the 8 trigrams that represent the total of 64 combinations of hexagrams within the I Ching. The Gua structure is the combination of 2 trigrams forming a hexagram, which gives the 6 lines the divination symbol of the I Ching. There is a relationship between the 6 lines of a hexagram. The first and fourth lines are the lower lines of each trigram. The second and fifth lines are the middle lines of each trigram. The third and sixth lines are the top lines of each trigram. And you'll see the bottom line is open on the first and fourth line. The second line is closed on the second and fifth. And then the third line is pivot on the third and sixth line. Tai Yin channel. Tai Yin channel, the first line, corresponds to Tai Yang channel, fourth line, as open channels. The Yang Ming second line corresponds to Joy Yin fifth line as closed channel. The Xiao Yin third line corresponds to Xiao Yang sixth line as pivot channels. According to the I Ching, the interrelationships of the 6 divinatory symbols have certain correspondences. There is a correspondence between the first and fourth, the second and fifth, and the third and sixth. It can be seen that such correspondences exist in the opposite divinatory symbols and do not exist in the 2 that are the same in nature. The correspondence indicates dynamic harmony and unity of the 2 opposite aspects in one thing. This is from Dr. Wei Jieyang's lecture on tongues acupuncture. So the yin-yang channel correspondence is the harmonized combinations. These relationships represent a harmonizing of the yin and yang in the holistic body. This is the basis of Saam Acupuncture's harmonized combinations technique, as it is also the basis of Master Tongue Acupuncture and part of Dr. Richard Tan's 5 balance technique, in which this is system number 2 of the 5 balances method in his book. According to Dr. Richard Tan, for system 2, we can choose to use either side of the body for the chief technique in regards to location of pain or disease. Per acupuncture theory, the left side pulse of the heart and liver pertain to blood, which is yin. The right side pulse, lung, and spleen pertain to qi, which is yang. Women have more blood, yin, than men, and men have more qi, yang, than women. We want to tonify that which is deficient. In Saam acupuncture, we use 4 needles as the chief on the right side, yang side, for women, and 4 needles as chief on the left side, yin, for men. I also incorporate Dr. Richard Tan technique number 4, choosing the luo connecting point of the channel opposite the chief on the 24-hour circadian clock. Both the lu and the front mu points of this channel are incorporated with the Saam prescription. For men, the yin channel is the chief and is triangulated with the 2 yang channels. For women, the yang channel is the chief and is triangulated with 2 yin channels. For men, the yin channels are the chief and are used on the left side, which contains only the 4 needle combination. On the right side, the harmonized yang channel is added with the luo connecting points of the opposing channel on the circadian clock. Front mu points of these 3 channels are added. The combinations for men are as follows and are shown in the diagrams that follow. Kidney is on the left, Sanjiao is on the right, with the large intestine mu point, stomach 25, added, along with the mu of the kidney and Sanjiao, and then luo connecting point of the large intestine number 6, is added to the right side, which is on the Sanjiao channel, on the same side as the Sanjiao. For liver, the yin organ is on the left, large intestine on the right, with the small intestine being the opposing channel on the circadian clock. We use that lu connecting point of small intestine 7 added to the right side along with the large intestine Jungguk, and we add the mu of the small intestine, Ren4, along with the mu of the liver and the large intestine. The spleen channel on the left, the small intestine on the right, with the Sanjiao being the opposing channel on the circadian clock as the Luo connecting point, Sanjiao, point number 5, added to the right side along with the small intestine Jungguk, and we will add the Sanjiao mu, we will add the front mu point of the Sanjiao along with the front mu point of the spleen and small intestine. The lung and the urinary bladder, lung being yin, is on the left, the chief, urinary bladder on the right. Now this is the self-same channel. The lung and the urinary bladder oppose one another on the circadian clock. So there is no additional mu point, but we can add the Luo connecting point, urinary bladder point 58, added to the right side, along with the urinary bladder Jungguk. And again, no additional mu point is added. It's only going to be the lung and the urinary bladder. The pericardium, yin organ on the left, stomach on the right. Again, this is these are opposing channels on the circadian clock, so there's no additional channel, but we can add the Luo connecting point of the stomach channel, which is stomach point 40, added to the right side along with the stomach Jungguk, and no additional mu point. It's just going to be the pericardium and stomach. The heart on the left and gallbladder on the right, and again, these two organs oppose one another on the circadian clock, so we can add the Luo connecting point of gallbladder 37 to the right side along with the gallbladder Jungguk, and no additional mu point is added. We will just do the front mu points of the heart and the gallbladder. For females, the chief channel is the yang channel on the right side, with only the 4 needle point prescription. The left side contains the harmonized yin channels and Luo point opposing the chief channel on the circadian clock. The mu point of this channel will also be added. For women on the right, the Sanjiao is the chief and the kidney on the left. The spleen is the opposing channel on the circadian clock, so we incorporate that Luo connecting point, which is spleen 4, and the front mu point, which is liver 13. So spleen 4 is added to the left side with the kidney Jungguk. The large intestine, the chief on the right side, with the harmonized combination liver on the left. The kidney channel opposes the large intestine on the circadian clock. So we add both the front mu point of the kidney along with the Luo connecting point, kidney 3, which is added to the same side as the liver, the left side, the liver Jungguk. Small intestine is the right side with the spleen harmonized combination on the left. The liver opposes the small intestine on the 24-hour circadian clock. So we add both that mu point and the Luo connecting point. And with the Luo connecting point, liver 5 is added to the spleen Jungguk, which is done on the left. The urinary bladder on the right side, the lung on the left, and these two oppose one another on the circadian clock. So we can just add Luo connecting point lung 7 on the left side with the lung Jungguk. There's no additional mu point added. The stomach and pericardium, stomach is placed on the right, pericardium Jungguk on the left. Again, the stomach and pericardium oppose one another on the circadian clock. So we just add the Luo connecting point, pericardium number 6, to the left side along with the pericardium Jungguk. And then the gallbladder and the heart. The gallbladder is Jungguk is placed on the right side and the heart is placed on the left. And again, these are self-opposing channels on the 24-hour circadian clock. So we can add the Luo connecting point of the heart, which is heart 5, to the heart Jungguk, which is added on the left side. No additional mu points are selected. It'll just be the gallbladder and the heart. Following are the harmonized combinations that are primarily and consistently done in my clinic every day and meditate on all the time. Along with these point prescriptions, I will add ashi or other acupuncture points where the area of complaint may be, such as with headaches. This is the kidney and Sanjiao harmonized combination, the kidney and Sanjiao Jungguk. The graph on the left shows for male and the graph on the right is for female application. Irregardless of male or female, the kidney Jungguk is performed on the left side for both male and female, and the Sanjiao is performed on the right. The only thing is we accentuate for male the kidney as the chief, which you will see there's only 4 points of the kidney point prescription on the left for male. You'll see the 4 points of the Sanjiao Jungguk on the right for female. However, on the right side, we also add the lual connecting point of the liver channel, which is opposite the kidney on the clock, and that's large intestine number 6 as the lual connecting point. So that's placed on the arm, on the wrist there on the right side. That's for male. And then look at the front mews. You'll see there's 3 organs targeted on the front mew. There's the Sanjiao under the belly button, and then to the side there's the kidney, as well as large intestine, which is on each side of the umbilicus. For female, you'll see that the 4 points on the Sanjiao are the chief. There's no other points on the right side. On the left side, you'll see the kidney Jungguk, and then down on the foot, you'll see the lual connecting point, spleen 5. Spleen is the opposing channel to the Sanjiao on the 24-hour circadian clock. So those are the point prescriptions, which are further accentuated in the pictures of the what we learned already in the beginning chapters. So kidney and Sanjiao, the function of Ming Men fire, monarch, and minister fire. We're getting all these fires. Chronic illness, cold, old age. The kidneys are the fountain of youth. Remember that. It is easy to see that most people exhibit kidney deficient signs. The kidney is the only organ that has no excessive patterns, only deficiency. Chronic diseases ultimately sink to the kidneys. So many years of disease, internal conditions, ultimately, the kidneys will be affected, but all the internal organs will be out of harmony, most likely. Patients of advanced age will have a lot of accumulated issues and will have deficiency in kidney qi, yin yang, and essence. Cold harbors deeply in the kidneys. Cold is the pathogen of the kidneys. The therapeutic approach should be to warm with moxa or herbs and activate kidney qi or Ming Men fire. The Sanjiao meridian synergizes with the kidney in its energetic role of minister fire. There are a lot of applications for kidneys, in fact, for treating fear and symptoms of PTSD, which is actually a case study. It's a research report that I've written up for any students that want to take up the subject of studying PTSD using the kidney Sanjiao. I have a whole research paper written up and ready to go. For long life, kidneys produce marrow, which in acupuncture, marrow is considered substance of both bone and brain. So not only for bone health, but for brain health. And an example of that is kidney essence. Kidney essence determines the quality of a young person's mental and physical growth and development. And as we age, we will see the signs of kidney essence decline. They can manifest as bone density loss, osteoporosis, or dementia diseases, Alzheimer's diseases, brain decline. So kidneys are responsible for that, as well as the dry skin, hair drying out. Loss of short-term memory is also rooted in the kidneys. So PTSD, we think of as consciousness, which I'm going to talk about in more detail on the PTSD chapter. But with this treatment, this is the PTSD treatment. I don't even add any variation to those points. What you see is the PTSD treatment in its entirety. There's nothing missing and there's nothing that's added. And when I do PTSD, the first thing one of the things I coach is fear is a physical disease and it resides in the kidneys. And that coaches the patient to bring them out of their mind. We are going to talk about PTSD in more detail, but we relive the event in the consciousness. And the example is if you go through an intersection and you have a car accident, the next time you go through that accident, you may relive the event in your mind. You get hypertense and agitated. So fear is a physical disease residing in the kidneys. and we will talk more about PTSD in the coming chapter. Kidneys dominate reproductive health and vitality, particularly in cases of infertility. The role of the kidneys is the quality of the eggs and the sperm, which is countered by, in women, the uterus and the the fetus implanting into the uterus, which we think of as the stomach role, because the uterus is considered a field, and that is nourished by the stomach. So for miscarriages, we would, due to uterus issues, we would think of stomach. But in general, overall reproductive health, vitality, rooted in the kidneys. So we want to tonify kidneys. They just consider them always deficient. One of the recommendations, behavioral recommendations, is reduce sex with age, as every acupuncturist knows in some interesting chapters in Makiyoshi and Cheng Xing's Fundamentals of Chinese Medicine. There is actually a schedule that as we age, we want to reduce the amount of times that men will have sexual release, ejaculation, because that depletes and diminishes kidney essence. So you can look that up. It's a very interesting schedule of reducing sexual emissions as we age. So reduce to preserve kidney essence. We also want to reduce immoderate harmful behaviors, drug and alcohol abuse, traumatic injuries to the body that require healing over and over, broken bones. We always want to preserve kidney essence, burning the midnight oil, mental exertion into the late night, not sleeping well, working through the late night, not sleeping well, nourishing yin. All these things can deplete kidney essence. And as the role of acupuncturists, we always want to preserve our kidney essence. And that's what the kidney Sanjiao Jungguk meditate. I meditate on this that's the most frequent meditation I do, the most frequent acupuncture technique I do, because in my opinion, the kidneys are one of the most fundamentally important organs in the body. So the kidneys also have the level 2 human need for sexual relationship, which we will talk about in Saam Meditation, the Interpretation of Dreams book, and Structures of Knowledge, for kidney characteristics reflected in dreams. And also water is going to be a big subject in the Interpretation of Dreams. Water is the element of the kidneys, and water is the most common subject in dreams. So remember that. Headaches affecting gallbladder, Sanjiao channels, ear problems. We are going to talk about triangulation method, Dr. Richard Tan's targeting of the gallbladder region using the Sanjiao, or ear problems. The ear is the sensory organ associated with the kidneys. And then there's some Sanjiao points, 15 or 16, 17, 18, 19, surrounding the ear. So this technique targets ear problems very well because both the kidney and Sanjiao just dominate the ear. Degenerative brain conditions such as Alzheimer's, dementia, short-term memory loss, dizziness, and vertigo. So this is a complicated subject with dizziness and vertigo. There can be many related issues. One of the issues is the accumulation of phlegm or mucus. We say phlegm can obstruct the head orifice, which can result in dizziness or vertigo. And phlegm can often be attributed to bringing cold to the body, bringing cold to the stomach, drinking ice cold drinks, because the stomach doesn't like cold, and cold inhibits digestive function. A byproduct of inhibited digestive function is the accumulation of phlegm or mucus. You will see cold signs, clear, moist tongue or white coating, slippery, slow pulse. So these are kinds of kidney yang deficiency with phlegm. That's a dizziness and vertigo symptom. And also the ears, targeting the ears with the ear stones and balance issues. Again, kidney essence produces marrow, which is substance of brain. So we're targeting the brain with this. And if I'm not doing the kidney Sanjiao, I'm probably doing the liver, large intestine Jungguk for dizziness or vertigo, or stomach pericardium. There's other applications. Okay, and then this is a big one too. Shortness of breath. Kidney qi unable to grasp lung qi. So there is a relationship between the kidneys, which reside in the lower jiao, and the lungs, which reside in the upper jiao. Often, this relationship can be interrupted by things occurring in the middle jiao, which I equate with either cold, because cold can suppress the kidney function, and the kidney is unable to grasp the chi of the lungs above because there's just simply cold, a blanket of cold obstructing the kidneys. You remove that blanket of cold, the kidney yang can flourish, and perhaps that the cold is a sticky, obstructive substance. So you remove that, and then the kidneys can um, grasp the chi of the lung, the energy of the lung. Then there's also stress. That what occurs in the middle jiao is probably stress, liver chi stagnation. The liver, large intestine dominates the middle jiao. We're going to talk about that in the next chapter here. But stress can often interrupt the relationship between the kidneys and the lungs. And I love doing the kidney Sanjiao Jungguk because I do the 3 breath sequence with the patients, and it's all about coaching the patient when you're doing a shortness of breath treatment. Coach the patient to pretend like they're sending their oxygen to the points, the mu points on the lower jiao. With the kidney sanjiao, all the front mu points are located in the lower torso. That's what's beautiful. This is a lower jiao treatment, a lower torso treatment. Pretend and have the patient coach the patient to pretend like they're sending the oxygen, descending the oxygen to these front mu points. But not only that, coach them to send it to the 2 tonification points that you're going to be stimulating with the breathing exercise. So I might as well reiterate that. We've talked about the breathing sequences. So it's a 3 breath technique. And when we take we coach the patient, take a breath in as they hold their breath, and as they exhale, I'm tonifying the 2 tonification points of the kidney junkyuk, which is lung 8 and kidney 7. Those are the 2 tonifying points. I'm stimulating those points with the tonification techniques as the patient's holding their breath, and as they're exhaling, I'm spinning these needles, rotating in a clockwise direction 9 times on a sequence of 9. And then at the same time, I'm doing the same thing on the Sanjiao channel as well. And this may be for women. The Sanjiao is going to be the chief, but these points all connect to the same areas, except for you're going to add the spleen junkyuk, or the spleen nodal connecting point, and you're going to add the front mu of the spleen, which is also still in the lower jiao. The spleen, front mu, and the kidneys, they just sit adjacent to one another. So we're still focusing on the lower jiao, and the spleen supplements essence. So it's a really kind of beautiful thing for females, where you're stimulating the Sanjiao 3 and gallbladder 41 as the patient holds their breath, and as they exhale, have the patient pretend like they're sending the oxygen to these far away points. And then I coach them I usually let them go. I'll check back in 25 minutes, but during that 25 minutes, every 5 or 10 minutes, they can do the 3 breath sequence on their own, whereas they hold their breath and exhale to remember the impression of those points that we were stimulating. So this is the kidney Sanjiao Junkyuk, the most commonly used technique in my clinic. This is the liver large intestine Junkyuk technique. Looking at the graph, you'll see the male on the left side, and you'll see the female graph on the right side. So for the male, the yin channel is the chief, and it's the 4-needle technique. So the liver, you'll see the 4 points of the liver channel prescription on the left. On the right side, you'll see the 4 points of the large intestine Junkyuk on the right. And then you'll see 0.5 there on the wrist. This is the luo connecting point of the opposing channel on the circadian clock, which is the small intestine point number 5. And then if you look at the mu points, you'll see these 3 channels, the mu of the liver, the mu of the large intestine, and the mu of the small intestine. This is the point prescription for male. For female, the large intestine on the right side, the yang channel, is the chief with these 4 points, the large intestine Junkyuk. And then on the left side is the liver, the 4 points of the liver Jungguk. But then looking down at the foot, you will see point number 5, which is the luo connecting point of the opposing channel on the large intestine circadian clock, which is the kidney. So that's the kidney point, luo connecting point number 5. So here you'll see the 3 mu points, the front mews of the liver, the large intestine, and the kidney. Notice the position of the mews. This is a lot of middle jiao, definitely middle jiao focused points. So that may be where the focus of the treatment is, because stress. Liver and large intestine, movement and circulation of qi, stress-related diseases, and autoimmune disorders. Autoimmune, particularly large intestine 11 and stomach 36 on the large intestine Jungguk. These are major immune system points just on their own in acupuncture point energetics. Stress is the cause of 1,000 disorders. It can trigger disharmony of the immune system, leading to autoimmune disorders. The liver's job in acupuncture medicine is to smoothly circulate qi and blood. Stress inhibits this function. The liver needs to be flexible and not rigid. The analogy is of wind blowing through a tree. Remember, wood is the element of liver and wind is the pathogen. The tree needs to bend. If it is too rigid, it will snap and break. That is essentially what stress does to the circulation of qi. It becomes stuck and rigid, and the harmonious relationships within the organs and immune system break down. The liver Jungguk is comparable to getting a whole body massage internally. That's how I kind of like it, especially with the liver's function of storing blood and nourishing blood, rejuvenating blood, especially at the 1 to 3 o'clock time at the night, which is a major role of blood. The added alternative points of large intestine Jungguk synchronize very well with the liver Jungguk, as large intestine 11 and stomach 36 have implications for immune disorders, but also bowel disorders. So stress can cause alternation between loose bowel movements or constipation. But a lot of times also it is maybe primarily constipation. There can be generated heat in the bowels, and if there's a lot of stress, it can create liver qi stagnation, which generates internal heat. There could be liver yang rising, which is a heat rising up, but heat tends to evaporate body fluids, and that can evaporate body fluids from the bowels, which will dry the stool, leading to constipation. Because of the liver's function of blood rejuvenation, circulation of blood, menstrual disorders for women. This is the go-to channel for painful menstruation, dysmenorrhea or amenorrhea, clotting in the menstruation, any kind of blood stagnation, and for menstrual issues, and also the post PMS, premenopause or postmenstrual syndrome, and a wide variety of other diseases. So a lot of stress, a lot of generated anger. This is the channel to go to. Stress and anger. Liver regulates blood, the smooth circulation of qi and blood. For qi stagnation, all menstrual syndromes, blood stagnation, purplish clotting, cramps, and pain. Now, also for immune system health, particularly with the large intestine role, a lot of immune function is regulated in the bowels by the gut bacteria. And remember, large intestine is the element of metal, which indicates structure, body structure, but immune system structure paired with the lung. So for flu, COVID, allergies, general immune system dysfunction, and gastrointestinal related issues, we use the large intestine 11. Now, one thing in the clinic I often do is I use 2 heat lamps on the patient. And there may be a lot of facial points that we do, sinus congestion, headaches, and so forth. So quite often we'll do the facial acupuncture points. The stomach channel, by the way, the stomach points dominate the sinus congestion area. Lo and behold, with the balance method, Dr. Richard Tan, which we will talk about later, but the large intestine balances to the sinus congestion area. So a lot of times we will use a double heat lamp. I put a heat lamp on the patient's face. I cover their their eyes with a tissue, and this becomes like a very luxurious spa-like treatment, using the liver, large intestine treatment with a double heat lamp. Really, truly a spa-like treatment. It feels so good. The level 3 human need for recognition of one's skills and talent, power, and accomplishment is the liver. In dreams reflecting one's frustration, power, control, or lack thereof. Well, we'll talk about that in the interpretation of dreams. Are you in your dreams, are you in a position of control? Are people coming to you asking for things, or are you begging people to be with people? Are you being ignored? Well, that may indicate liver frustration. Service and generosity are liver characteristics. One need not be a high-powered CEO to manifest liver satisfaction. Dreams of commonplace work frustrations may be liver quality. In meditation, think of service and generosity. This is kind of a spiritual role. You want to think of service in the spiritual realm. I mean, this is a godly thing to serve other people, and you can have your needs met. And generally, people that are do a lot of service with other people, they're happy. They're not frustrated people. So that's a liver quality. This idea of service and generosity. It's a very spiritual thing, and in my opinion, with the liver channel terminates at the top of the head, and there's inward movement of the liver energetic is inward moving wind. Well, I think, and you think of the halo structures of saints and angels, you'd think it, and it's always at the top of the head, inward moving wind. I think the liver has, and it's the liver is associated with the eternal spirit, the immortal spirit. I think there's a lot of divine knowledge that pours in at the top of the head, and you can remember that for the pericardium channel, which is also a level 3 need, as is the liver. So it's very interesting. There can be a kind of spiritual things coming in this idea of service, generosity, and there can be a lot of uh, beneficence coming from the spirits in meditation of this and this idea. Many headache conditions affecting the large intestine, stomach, and gallbladder channels are on the face and head. And we will do a headaches chapter and using Dr. Richard Tan's balance method application. So I hope you're looking forward to that. So in general, liver large intestine is used for a lot of stress related issues, menstruation issues, middle jiao, targeting the middle jiao bowel movements, digestion. So this is the number 2 commonly used treatment in my clinic. I'd just like to add, for the acupuncture practitioner or the meditator, you can definitely incorporate other points, ashi points, or points relevant to the condition within these techniques. And we'll talk about that in the triangulation method. But if practitioner choice, meditation choice, you can certainly add other ashi points and make connections with the techniques. This is the spleen, small intestine, Jungguk harmonized combination. The male graph on the left, you'll see the spleen, small intestine, and the female as well. The spleen channel's point prescriptions are on the left side, regardless of male or female. The small intestine Jungguk technique is on the right, regardless of male or female. However, for the male, we're tonifying yin on the left side, so we're only using the 4 points of the spleen Jungguk as the chief on the left side. And then on the right side, we'll still use the 4 points of the small intestine Jungguk. However, we also add the lual connecting point of the channel opposing the spleen, which is the Sanjiao on the circadian clock. So the lual connecting point is Sanjiao point number 5 there on the wrist, that's added on the right side for male. And then you will see the mu points of the spleen, the Sanjiao, and the small intestine. Notice how they are all located in the lower jiao. Well, remember, spleen supplements essence, post heaven essence. So this is a great technique for tonifying essence. All the points are down there. Now, for the female, the small intestine, being the yang channel, is the chief. So we use the 4 points of the small intestine Jungguk on the right side On the left side, we still use the 4 points of the Spleen Jungguk, but we add the liver point number 5, which is the luo connecting point, and this liver is the opposing channel of the small intestine on the 24-hour circadian clock. So we are using the luo connecting point of the liver, and then we also add the mu point of the liver with the mu of the spleen and the mu of the small intestine. So the spleen, we get blood from the food that we eat. The food is transformed into blood, and that is the role of spleen and stomach. If digestion is impaired and we're not maximizing digestive efficiency, then we are not getting the full nutritional benefit and production of blood. And so that could result in anemia, a blood deficiency, which looks like a pale tongue with the ridges of a teeth mark on the side. So production of blood is, and that's also a function of small intestine with the small intestine fire and water combination, which produces blood. So it's an awesome blood technique, and it's primarily about digestion, absorbing the nutrients in the small intestine, maximizing digestive efficiency. We talked about the supplementation of essence because of post-heaven essence, and then also healing from traumatic injuries. Again, production of blood and flesh, muscle tissue is the tissue associated with the spleen. We get our flesh and muscle from the food we eat. So if we are spleen qi deficiency, we have weak or flaccid muscle tissue. So this is a great technique also for tonifying and warming essence. Both the spleen and the small intestine Jungguk techniques have implications for digestion and transformation of food, and for tonifying and warming blood. The relationship between the spleen and small intestine is stated in Chapter 22 of Suen, Essential Questions. When the spleen is deficient, there appears abdominal fullness, borborygmus, and indigestion. And borborygmus is the rumblings of the intestine. There's two kinds of rumblings. One is when the stomach is hungry and it wants food. Well, the other one is when the intestines are rumbling, and that can often be cold, related to loose bowel movements, loose stool, deficient spleen. The spleen is not able to form the stool. So those are all occurring in the small intestine. Post-heaven's essence is supplemented by the nourishment of and food we receive and process through the spleen. In cases of traumatic injury, when the body needs essence to heal, the spleen and small intestine combined technique is a good choice to regenerate flesh and heal bone, along, of course, with the kidney sanjiao, which the kidneys produce marrow, which is substance of bone. So that's also a good choice. Absolutely. Both the kidney and spleen nourish and replenish essence. So phlegm and dampness are the pathological factors, environmental factors, specifically associated with the spleen. Weak digestion, the spleen produces phlegm, the lungs take it. Cold can inhibit digestion, so cold can produce phlegm. The lymphatic system is dominated by the spleen. Damp phlegm, movement of the lymphatic fluids, especially under the jaw and the neck. There can be a lot of, and under the jaw and the neck is the area where the spleen channel terminates at. So a lot of lymphatic system under there, which can be accumulation of phlegm or mucus. Alrighty, so worry and overthinking. A quality of the earth. A quality of the earth, and the earth is associated with the element of spleen, is that we can think of a problem from every single angle, from 360 degrees. We can think of a situation. How are you going to respond to this way? I could do it that way. I could do it this way. So that can be overthinking, which tends to lead to worry. And overthinking occurs at night. So I'm so glad I did the headaches chapter and study with Dr. Richard Tan Balance Method, because from that, I have derived what I found to be a very efficient and actually great technique for overthinking using the spleen, small intestine. I'm going to be showing the poster graph of that near the end. But basically, the prescription is spleen, small intestine, with the Sanjiao points on the ears, Sanjiao 16, 17, 19 on both ears, because both ears on the Sanjiao channel will we can use balance method harmonized number 2, so they both ears bilaterally on the Sanjiao points connect to the spleen. So, and then there's I incorporate urinary bladder 4, 5, 6, or 7 and 8 on the top of the head, but only on the left side of the top of the head, because that balances to the small intestine on the right side. So that's my overthinking technique. You'll see a poster graph of it, but it's been great. I meditate on it, and if I find myself thinking a lot, I go into this technique where I'm simultaneously balancing the spleen to the Sanjiao 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 on both ears, but also balancing the small intestine to the left side, urinary bladder 6, 7, 8, and the mind goes blank. I've done this on patients and their mind goes blank. It's a wonderful technique for overthinking. Okay, so spleen not only produces produces blood, but the food that we eat is also transformed into chi, which is energy. So chi deficiency, spleen chi deficiency, is a classic symptom. That's the teeth marks, ridges on the side of the tongue, a flaccid tongue, fatigue, lethargy, prolapse of organs. The spleen's role is to lift up. It lifts up the organs, especially the intestines, um, intestinal hernias, and so forth. When we are chi deficient, the organs sink, we get prolapse. Spleen chi deficiency lifts the organs. So very important to tonify chi and spleen. Ginseng tea. We often use ginseng tea for chi deficiencies. And what else? Fatigue, lethargy, prolapse of organs, low energy, reduced appetite. The spleen is associated with the level 1 needs for food. This is going to be an interesting study in the dreams, because I found, and you'll see an example of Carl Jung dream, and in my own personal experience of dream, I believe children have dreams or nightmares of tunnels and graves, and being submerged in the earth, the element of spleen, because of worry. The kids need food to grow big against the threats. Kids are very vulnerable. And then on the mom and the parents, food planning um, could be rooted in ancestral difficulties of food supply. I mean, let's face it. At least in my whole lifetime, I've had plentiful food supply. I don't know what the future is going to bring, but just think about overthinking and worry. Well, just for food, the accumulation of food, that may be a primal um, function of the spleen for worry of food. And so if you dream of food, for instance, that's probably a spleen need that's represented by the level 1 human need for food. And again, the spleen transforms food into both flesh, muscle, and blood. This is the heart bladder Jungguk. You will see the heart on the left and gallbladder on the right. Heart is yin, gallbladder is yang. Regardless of male or female, that's the points I position them on my patients. However, for the male patients, you will see that there's 4 points on the heart Jungguk on the left side, while there is the gallbladder Jungguk on the right. And then also we're adding gallbladder point 37, which is the luo connecting point of the gallbladder, because the heart and gallbladder are self-same channels opposing one another on the 24-hour circadian clock. You also see that there's only 2 mu points for the gallbladder and heart used. So that's the point prescription for male. For female, you will see that there's 4 points for the gallbladder Jungguk on the right side, and then there's 4 points of the heart Jungguk on the left, as well as that 5th point there, which is the luo connecting point, heart point number 7 on the left side, because again, the heart and gallbladder oppose one another on the 24-hour circadian clock. The heart gallbladder dominates the realm of spirit, mind, and love and courage. Love is the associated emotion of the heart, and courage is kind of the attribute of the gallbladder. but as well as the spiritual kind of mind, love, courage. The heart gallbladder is useful for physical diseases of any kind of cardiovascular disease, obstruction, targeting the heart itself with this technique, and then also for headaches of the gallbladder channel on the head, which we'll talk about more in the headaches section. So, love and courage. This is a comforting technique for people who are facing death. Go with love and courage, full of heart and gallbladder. In the first book of Saam Medical Meditation, I related to the gallbladder a conversation between two Roman soldiers. Surely it is best to die in the rush of battle than in a depleted old age. It is sure to be true, replied the other. So that idea of love and courage, and used for any heart chi deficiency, digestive discomfort. Incorporate, invigorate the blood points of lung 9, spleen 10, and gallbladder 39. I'm going to be showing a picture poster of our cardiovascular blood circulation using this technique to circulate blood, and we incorporate 3 points. Lung 9 is the influential point of the vessels of blood vessels. Spleen 10 invigorates blood, and gallbladder 39 is a great point for stroke prevention. So with these additional points, I use the heart and gallbladder channel technique for coronary artery disease. And in meditation, with my history of with my history of heart issues, heart disease, I am hyper focused on my heart. And anytime I get a chest pain or I've eaten a lot of greasy foods, I am going to do this coronary artery disease. And it may take a few weeks of just constant meditation. You can feel the blockage in the heart. You can imagine your blood vessels, the chi. You bring the chi and you feel the chi pushing through these areas of blockage. And I mean, subjectively, it's great for chest pains. And I just do it by meditation. So again, my history of heart, I've spent hours every day in meditation, and my primary chief complaint was heart palpitations, arrhythmias. So I'm super focused and aware of any kind of discomfort in the heart and chest. But I tell you what, man, I've been using this coronary artery disease for years now. And it's almost like a seasonal thing. It's not all the time, but you get seasons of like chest pain. And whenever I get a chest pain, I do this coronary artery disease. Remember that. Lung 9, influential point of blood vessels. Spleen 10, invigorates blood. Gallbladder 39 is the influential point of marrow, and it's used for stroke preventions. Use it with the heart gallbladder. You're going to see a picture poster of that again at that chapter. Look out for that one. Okay, so the heart level is the level 2 need for love of friends, family, pets, and God. Platonic love and love of God. Now we go into Dr. John Sarno again, unconscious rage, using gallbladder B+. We are going to talk about the B+ soon after this harmonized combination channel. The B+ patterns are a different Saam point prescription. I use them a lot in meditation. However, in practice, I only use the B+ meditation. Well, I do it occasionally, but I use it exclusively with Dr. John Sarno's unconscious rage. With heart gallbladder, it's about love and then unconscious love of the heart, but then there can be unconscious rage, which is generated from long-standing family or work-related stress related issues, relationship issues that responsibilities. They can generate unconscious rage. We're going to talk about this in more detail in that chapter, but I use the heart gallbladder B+ specifically for this thing, and patients find it very helpful. It is very helpful. One treatment can make a big difference. And these are lifelong things. We are talking about repression from these stressful family related relationship issues. Repression of one's anger will surely come up in some kind of physical manner. A lot of times, digestive related issues. I have a patient today or yesterday with lifelong constipation issues, And I brought this up. I used this technique on her yesterday, and I identified her according to the characteristics of being a do-gooder, successful, high achieving, liver, like bossy kind of lady, needs to have her own way. Well, lo and behold, she has a large family. She has a twin sister. And when I told her this, Dr. John Sarno, she said, that's me, that's me. And she had lifelong constipation issues. So this is the technique I used, and it's a very good technique. Heart and gallbladder are Shao Yang realm phenomena. So Shao Yang realm, what is that? Okay, now we're getting into organ-centered consciousness per Carl Jung. These are when weird synchronistic events or hauntings of evil spirits affect some people. Now, some people have spiritual gifts, and they may be tuned into the spiritual world, but that could be bad if it's a haunting by demons, but then they can be with good spirits, and they have good interactions, and it can be with nature, auras, and so forth. So they're kind of tuned in. They have a gift for tuning into these weird Shaoyang realm phenomena. Now, it can be good, but a lot of times haunting by evil spirits or bad kind of things, weird bad things, always accident prone or something. We don't want to be in this realm. We want to get out of it. So we want to expel these bad, unpleasant, and they're wind events of the unconscious. Think about it. Weird, sudden events occurring, synchronicities. They're kind of wind events, and they're in the unconsciousness as opposed to the consciousness. This is so fascinating, and I hope you can get it. It's really fascinating. So we're going to talk more about that with the B plus. I mean, this is in the same category as Dr. John Sarno's unconscious rage, because these are unconscious pathologies. So whether it's unconscious rage from family stress related issues, or there's weird synchronistic events, haunting of evil spirits, but this is also communication with God, with good spirits. So this is a very interesting thing. And one more thing with Dr. Sarno, unconscious rage, political, and the gallbladder. The gallbladder has the revolutionary rage aspect, again, anger against political injustice, the political situation. Whenever you wake up in the morning and you're angry about world events, use this meditation. It'll expel these kind of anger issues. I'm telling you, political or family related stress issues. This is the go-to one. The heart, gallbladder, B plus. We'll talk about B plus, and we will talk more specifically about Dr. John Sarno. So use with good, pleasant things. During a treatment, I had another patient. Her father just passed away 2 weeks ago, and she happened to have a headache on the gallbladder channel on the right side. And then her father had passed away last week, and I used the heart gallbladder. I did not use the B plus method with her. I just used, as you see in the graph, heart, exactly as you see in the graph, with some local ashi points on the head where the headache was. And I I coached her, because heart is love, and she has love for her father. And I coached her, just generate love, that energy, the chi of love. Feel it in the heart points, in the mu points of the chest, and send it to the tonification points of the heart, point number one, and liver, point number one. And again, to reiterate, I always do the 3-breath sequence. So no matter which Jungguk channel, I'm doing the 3-breath sequence, or sometimes with the 6th breath. With Dr. John Sarno B plus, I am doing 6th breath. But in her case, we did the 3-breath sequence. So when she takes a breath in and she holds her breath, and as she's exhaling, I'm stimulating the 2 tonifying points of the heart and gallbladder Jungguk. In this case, heart 9 and liver 1. I'm using, as she's holding her breath and exhaling, spinning, rotating the needles in a clockwise direction 9 times. And I'm repeating, and I'm doing the same thing on the gallbladder points, with 44 and UB66, the tonifying pinch on the gallbladder. And I do the 3-breath sequence, and I'm stimulating both channels per breath. And so, generate love. This is about love for family. I mean, for family, God, with pets, if you have a lot of love, but also the heart gallbladder in moments of appreciation. Heart is appreciation of beauty, aesthetic beauty, beautiful things, saying beautiful things. If you're cursing, you're angry, or you say unpleasant things, distasteful things, you may have a disturbance in the heart gallbladder. So we want to accentuate beautiful and turn away from the ugly. So with the dreams, pleasant dreams of family, friendship, pet love, dreams of beautiful things, we will talk more about that. And then headaches affecting the gallbladder channel of the face and head. Other things, heart is related to long-term memory. And again, any kind of local chest pains, heart pains, I will be doing this technique with the local appropriate ashi points.